Hi everyone, I want to show you how you can use Flux with Forge to actually generate images in a whole bunch of different styles. So you'll get to use Flux's incredible image quality and good prompt adherence with these integrated styles, which is going to give you some beautiful looking images. So let me show you how to do this. So this video is going to be a continuation in my Forge and Flux series, and I'm going to show you how to quickly change the style of an image without using any Loras. So when you're in Forge, on the right hand side over here, if you just left click over here, you'll see that we have something called styles integrated. Now there's a whole bunch of styles that you can use over here, and all of these styles were actually built to work with SDXL, but they also work with Flux. So to quickly demonstrate this without using any styles, I'm just going to type in a prompt that says a woman in a red dress with black hair, and then I'm going to click on generate. So straight out of the gate, Flux is incredible with image quality and prompt adherence, and it's going to give us a beautifully realistic image. But this is where styles can come in handy, because without using any styles right now, or adjusting my prompt and making it more detailed to be in a different style, I can use styles to help guide my prompt. So by that, what I mean is, for instance, if I left click on here and let's say I want an image in the style of craft clay. As soon as I select the style, it's now been selected because we can see it in this box. But these styles themselves actually have additional prompts that are embedded in the style. So it's going to take our prompt over here and add some additional wording onto it to get this desired style, which is supposed to look like craft clay or Play-Doh. So once that is selected, now I'm going to generate an image and I'll show you what it looks like with this style. So this is the image that we end up getting, which is really cool because this is now a completely different style, and we actually did not need to type in additional words into our prompt because the style itself did it for us. And we know that because if we go to the bottom over here, we can see our prompt that we actually typed in, but now the style has added additional words in here like Play-Doh style, sculpture, clay art, centered composition, and claymation. So let's try another style. If you want to get rid of the style, just click on the X over here, then just left click over here, and I'm going to generate an image in the style of anime. So I'll select that and then click on generate. Alright, so there we go. Now we've got an anime image over here that again is using our prompt. Remember, it's the same theme, red dress and black hair, but it's added additional words on here. So you can see how it's actually making our prompt more detailed. And here's another image generated using the style low poly. So you can see it's given it that low poly aesthetic, especially on the hair. If you're a fan of pixel art, well, there you go. You can get some images in the style of pixel art. So yeah, some of these styles are definitely not perfect, and sometimes they might even not even look like the style that it's supposed to look like. In this case with pop art, right, if I just generate a prompt with pop art and I just leave this in with a woman in a red dress with black hair, it's actually going to give me an image like this, which again, it looks cool, but it doesn't really look like pop art, right? If we actually Google pop art style, you can see that sometimes we've got these speech bubbles, but most importantly, there's this half-tone pattern. So by just adding that into my prompt, right, I said with a half-tone pattern and speech bubbles that say, wow, and oh my God, I get something more in line with this, which I think looks more like pop art in my opinion, maybe a little bit like a comic book as well. So yeah, the styles is giving you some guidance, but I feel like you have to guide it a little bit further as well by adding additional stuff into your prompt. I also think these styles can come in handy for getting different color grading on your images. For instance, this was the first image we generated with the girl wearing a red dress and black hair. This obviously, it looks like maybe a photo captured with a DSLR camera or even an iPhone. Maybe she was taking a selfie over here, but just by using the style called cinematic, you can see that the color grading has changed on here, and well, obviously it's trying to mimic something that looks a little bit more cinematic. So just a very quick way to change the overall color grading of a image that you want generated. So you can also use more than one style. Over here I'm using two completely different styles. I've got Renaissance and I've got Cybernetic Robot. Now you can see the Renaissance is being used over here to obviously give me this dress in the style of, the Renaissance era. But then we've got these robotic elements on here as well, which is a fusion of both the past and the future, which I think is quite cool. So have fun with that and also combine different styles together and see what you end up getting. And another tip, don't be afraid to actually add onto your prompt. So maybe if you selected an art style that's Renaissance, but you feel like the art style is not really looking like a Renaissance painting, then maybe try and specify that in the prompt. So over here I put oil painting, and again, it's using both styles. It's given me this image, which looks amazing, but I still feel like, because with Flux, Flux is trained on still, being able to give you realistic looking images. This maybe looks like an extremely realistic oil painting. It doesn't look like a very authentic oil painting, but it's still merging those styles with the Renaissance dress over here, and then these robotic elements, which again looks crazy. And I love these elements that are included over here on her hair. But yeah, that's what you can do. Sometimes, you might not get the desired art style just because of how Flux has been trained, but you can still get different styles of images by using this to help guide your prompts. So as a bonus tip, if we go to image, we can actually take an image we've generated and use it as inspiration for generating another image in a different style. So you can see it's like referencing the outfit and the composition and even the angle of a head, but it's generated a different image over here, right? This is the craft clay style. So to do this, you'll go to image. You can drag and drop your image in here, and then I've just basically used the same dimensions over here that were used in text to image, right? The exact same dimensions, and then it's the same prompt, and I selected craft clay. But the most important thing is the denoising strength. So the higher this value is, the more creative freedom you're giving to the AI. So it's going to move away from this original image, and the pose can change entirely. So just try and find a value that works best for you. In this case, 0.8 gave me this image, which I guess is inspired by this one, but in a different style, and still works quite well by using the craft clay. So you can see on a value of 0.5, it's obviously way too similar to the original image. We're not even actually getting this craft clay style anymore. So just be mindful of how you use this value. And if this value is way too high, then it's basically ignoring this image at this point, and it's doing craft clay and just analyzing the prompt itself. So it's like giving 95% of the generation creative freedom to analyze the prompt and use the style. And yeah, like I said, at this point it's just ignoring this image. So you have to find a good middle ground. So in my opinion, a good value is 0.7 or 0.75. It's still, utilizing this image and its composition and pose and the garment and all of that, but we're still getting, some of that craft clay style in here, and you can definitely see that, especially with the hair and the dress. But yeah, just mess around with this value until you find something that works best for you. Now, if you want this image to be even a little bit more accurate in terms of, copying the pose, then what I would recommend is clicking on resize by and then just putting the scale on 2. So this is like doing a 2 times upscale. Keep in mind that it's going to double your generation time. You can see I'm using a 3090 and this image took 2 minutes and 46 seconds to generate. So it is going to increase your render time. But now this is the image I end up getting. And if I bring in the previous one, this is what this one looked like when it was on 896 by 1152, and then this is what well, obviously the original image, and of course this is what was generated now. So this one definitely looks a little bit more accurate in terms of the garment itself, and that's by doubling the resolution. Now obviously the likeness of this person is completely lost, and I think maybe stuff like that would be better if you're using control nets. But Flux right now at Forge does not have any control net support integrated into it, so hopefully that comes at some stage. But this is still cool that now you can take an image as inspiration, apply a different style to it, and even copy over the pose. So you decide which one of these images looks better to you. But keep in mind the likeness of that person is obviously completely lost over here. So obviously being able to quickly change the style of an image I think is amazing, but I also think there is some limitations, and that's the fact that obviously Flux I feel like has a bias for generating realistic imagery. Even though over here I specified that I wanted a pencil sketch drawing, and in the prompt itself I even said I wanted it to be loosely hand drawn and in charcoal. It's given me an image like this, and this just looks more like a very realistic drawn sketched image instead of giving me images that are supposed to be loosely hand drawn. like this. I'm not really getting that aesthetic, and I think that's because of Flux itself. But it's still amazing that we can change the style of an image. If you guys want very specific styles to use with your images, then I would recommend using Loras. So if you check the link in the description, I show you how to install Loras and use them. Loras are basically like expansion packs, and they can generate images in a very specific style consistently, which is great. So if you really want a very distinct style, then you can install Loras. And I download Loras from this website called Civet AI. So over here, it's either civetai.com or civetai.green. And then you can see over here, you can generate images in very specific styles. But if you don't want to go the LoRa route, you can still use the integrated styles over here to get an output. But like I mentioned, sometimes it doesn't really give you the desired output. Alright, so that's going to be the end of this tutorial. So go ahead, play around with these different styles, but you can see they're not perfect. You might have to still add onto the prompt to get it closer to that specific style. But it's still cool that we have these presets that we can just select, and it's just going to change the style of our images. So experiment. As always, thank you so much for the support on this channel. You guys are super awesome. Stay tuned for some more videos and tutorials, and goodbye.